Robert Moynihan, editor of the magazine Inside the Vatican, and it is the 1st of October, Wednesday, October 1st, 2025. And I'm with Father Charles Murr, who is in his studio in Spain, not far from Seville. Hello, Father Murr.
Good afternoon, or should I say good morning, Robert?
Yeah, I'm in Virginia right now.
Then good morning. Then good morning to you.
Yeah. And we've already got several people with us. Dermal Quigley, greetings from Dublin, Ireland. So the Irish contingent is here.
Good.
With myself and with...
if you don't have the Irish contingency, where are you going? Nowhere.
Yeah, I mean, I think the Irish saved Europe.
They did.
Okay. So Dermot is... I need my glasses to read my screen. Do we now have to wait 20 years for Leo's successor to be elected before we get a good pope? Now listen, this I just read on the screen. I didn't intend even to begin with this, Father Murr. I intended to begin with the phrase, honesty is the best policy. And it is the question of our church in the modern world, a secularized world, how we have the flame of the faith and present it and don't become secularized ourselves. And I said, honesty is the best policy as we, on the one hand, remain somehow faithful to the Pope, who is the successor of Peter. And on the other hand, we might take exception to something that he says. And then you had the phrase, but that might, what did you say when I said that we should be honest?
We should be honest, but it can also bring us to ruin. that's, you know.
Okay, so you and I could be brought to ruin. So I want
sure. Easily.
Okay, I have a press pass, which is called. In fact, I've got one right here in my pocket. This is it.
A stampa. Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm an ordinary 3-year pass. I've had one for 33 years. However, there was a time when I wrote something that was regarded as unacceptable, and I walked into the press office one day, and two of the guards there, but the staff guys came up and they said, Robert, and one put his arm under one arm and the other put his arm under my other arm, and they said, you're not wanted here any longer. Please come with us to the door. They escorted me physically.
Wow.
And I stepped outside, and then I didn't go back in for some days, and I think weeks, and finally tried to get everything straightened out. But, you know, we're in a human world, and human beings can become offended, and even in the church, you can be persona grata and persona non grata. Have you ever experienced that?
Sure, of course, Robert. Of course, the only thing that I'm seeing more and more of, I'm seeing it clearer and more of, is that if you are on the right of things, I particularly remember Pope Paul VI defending him. There were any number of us defending the Pope during times where he was being brutally criticized. Romane Vitae, his stance on different things, and we were defending him. We were the ones who suffered. The ones who attacked him were promoted. I never saw anything quite like it. It was. You would think that by defending someone's reputation, someone's intellect, someone's stance on any given subject, and especially the Pope, being the Pope, that you would be on the right side of things. But in the case of Pope Paul VI, and I'm going to say this too, and ever since, with the exception perhaps of JP1 and Pope Benedict, if you defended what was right, you were sort of out of the what would you say that? Out of the circle. But
out of-
if you attacked it, you were somebody to be reckoned with, and you were invited to things. It was amazing. It was amazing. And this has been going on for about 50 years, at least 50 years. In every sense of it. Look at for example, the Second Vatican Council, the decrees on anything you wish. You can pick and choose. If you were on the progressive side of things, as a matter of fact, if you were in blatant disagreement and disobedience to what was the norm, what was stated, there was no problem with you. If you defended anything, you were a Lefebvrist, a sedevacantist. You were what do you mean a Lefebvrist, a sedevacantist? You're defending what is. It wasn't a controversial thing. That's what I'm talking about, and that's what I'm seeing also today happening more and more. It's a little bit concerning.
Okay, so maybe I should sketch why we even begin in these terms. And it's one of our readers who's saying here, Curtis White, trying to remain hopeful about Pope Leo, but there are some seemingly ominous signs, he says. So I suppose we would characterize the situation. A central point of our faith is that we hold to the tradition and the doctrine once handed down, the deposit of the faith. And therefore, on all sides, we lift our minds, our rhetoric, our logic, our argument to defend the beautiful Catholic faith and teaching, because it leads to heaven, it leads to a joy, it leads to forgiveness, it leads to healing, and any other path leads to misery. So we do that. However, we also, in part of that faith is a kind of commitment and loyalty exemplified by the Jesuit vow to be obedient to the Holy Father, the successor of Peter. The physical, visible expression of the Petrine office, and to be very loyal, recognizing that just like Peter, he's capable of even betraying his Lord, but for that reason, all the more desirous of supporting him as the church zigzags and tumbles down through the centuries and now 2,000 years. And it's an honor to still be part of this wonderful, half human, half divine institution, and be very realistic and very idealistic, and to keep those paradoxical, contradictory truths in tension, and therefore have our discussion. But the loyalty to the Pope somehow must be true loyalty. Just as the boy who saw the king had no clothes said, the king has no clothes, and everyone else was telling him he was very beautifully dressed. So where does that lead us, Father? What are we referring to? What's happening?
Well, I mean, a few things that the new pontiff has said, and positions that he's taken. For example, with the Cardinal Archbishop of Chicago wanting to award a Democrat politician who is absolutely pro-abortion from the get-go, strongly so, all of his life. For some reason, we're to overlook that. Of course, I was going to say, do you remember the seamless garment, Bernadine's seamless garment? When that first came out, I knew this was baloney. I knew it was baloney, and I'll tell you why it was. Why I felt that immediately, because it seemed to me that anyone who would hold that stance, let's say, and it's basically this. You correct me, Robert, if I've got it wrong. I don't think I do. The seamless garment is you accept everything, or nothing, everything. And if for example, there are a few things you don't agree with, you accept it anyway in the name of unity and what have you. For example, let's take this. I disagree with abortion. Right? We're on that. I disagree strongly with abortion. But if I've got a bishop, or any other churchman, or any politician who wants abortion, but he's okay on the other Catholic issues, then I can overlook the abortion thing and just say, well, this is a seamless garment. We're going to take the whole thing and just kind of overlook that. Well, how do you overlook that? If it's the most serious breach of confidence in our faith and trust in the will of God, how do you overlook that? And this was wrong right from the beginning. And I always took it this way. And this is where I say, correct me if I'm wrong. When I hear people talking like that, it's not, for example, when a priest says, we're all sinners. Well, he means that. He means he includes himself too. And it's not a false humility. It's the truth. We're all sinners. But if you say, for example, well, there are people who have this major sin or that major sin, let's overlook that. Let's not pay too much attention to that. What it's saying to me is, I have that sin, and I want you to overlook it in me. This is what I'm hearing, especially for people who are in positions of authority. They're not speaking clearly to the issue, and what I think they want to say is, let's skip over that because I've got a problem with that too, or I have another issue in this seamless garment thing that I'm not addressing, and I don't want it to be addressed. Am I making any sense?
You are making sense. I think we've got about 4 or 5 different points here we need to parse and explain more clearly. But I think we begin by talking about, I'm going to share my screen here. And do you see this article? Bishops, Catholic groups slam Cardinal Cupich's plan to honor pro-abortion Senator Dick Durbin. You referred to this, calling it great scandal. Archbishop of Chicago faces growing criticism over Lifetime Achievement Award for Senator Dick Durbin. And here's the article. Outraged Catholics are rallying to stop Cardinal Blaise Cupich, Archbishop of Chicago. And I know Cardinal Cupich, and I also knew Cardinal Bernardine, who was the famous articulator of the idea of the seamless garment of morality, that it's one, not just one issue like abortion, but all issues of respect for human life and for human dignity.
Of human morality, no? Of morality, you can say?
Yeah, and so we'll get to this, but this is the particular point. He chose to give a Lifetime Achievement Award to Senator Dick Durbin, and he has a very clear record of supporting what he calls abortion rights. And this is the sentence from Kelsey Reinhardt, whom I also know, and she's the president and CEO of Catholic Vote, and she replaces a successor of Brian Birch, who has just now become Donald Trump's ambassador to the Holy See, to the Vatican, with his 9 or 10 children. And he's in Rome right now, and he just presented his credentials to Pope Leo. But Kelsey, his successor, says, quote, after decades of faithful prayer, pro-life marches, persistent efforts of the U.S. Bishops' Conference to defund Planned Parenthood, and even the founding of a religious order to end abortion, this award shocks the Catholic conscience with its insensitivity to the evil of abortion and undermines the Church's leading role in defending the unborn. So that's the position that many Catholics are taking with regard to this decision of the Cardinal Archbishop of Chicago, this man here, Blaise Cupich. And but Pope Leo entered this debate, And I have to go and try to find what he just said. Pope Leo, here it is. There's Pope Leo. Can you see that?
Again, yes.
And he says, let me try to enlarge this a little bit. Once more, so you can see it. Pope Leo the 14th, right here, September 30th, so yesterday. We're October 1st today, 2025, Wednesday. Pope Leo the 14th responded to controversy over the Chicago Cardinals' plans to honor a Catholic U.S. senator who supports legalized abortion, saying that the senator's record should be considered in its totality and that Americans should search together for the truth on ethical issues. And this is the words right here. I am not terribly familiar with the particular case. I think it's important to look. He's speaking to journalists here yesterday who got him just outside his residence.
Yes.
I am not terribly familiar with the particular case. In this, I also am sympathetic to the Pope in the sense he didn't have a prepared statement. He didn't come into a room and said, I'm going to read my prepared statement. He's walking and stopping. Journalists ask him. So in a way, it's an off-the-cuff remark. And therefore, also, we would say the magisterium of the Pope is guarded by many guardrails. And in particular, we speak of the Pope's magisterial authority, in particular with official encyclical statements, which have been read 5 or 10 times, corrected by his staff, making sure that it's a reflection of Catholic thought. We can't have a creep so that a kind of an extension of the concept of magisterial authority to include every remark he makes at the dinner table. We can gain insight and benefit from virtually everything he says, but we can't really be so unwise as to say in every single remark that he makes offhand, in a dinner, over coffee, he's speaking magisterially.
Robert, if I may, I think most of us learned that quite well these past 12 years with Francis.
Right.
We were actually, one of the things that I'm thankful for him being Pope was that he helped us mature in our idea of what the papacy is, what is and what is not. When a Pope is speaking for the church and when he's giving his own opinion. We never really, those weren't so clear before. They are clear with him. And I think the point you're making with Pope Leo is the same.
Yes. So, I might as well read the words that have really sparked these paragraphs here. He said, I unquote, this is Pope Leo speaking yesterday. I understand the difficulty and the tensions. So he sees this, it's a tense situation with critics, with the Cardinal, with Durbin himself. But I think, as I myself have spoken in the past, it's important to look at many issues that are related to the teachings of the Church. Someone who says, I'm against abortion, but is in favor of the death penalty, is not really pro-life, the Pope explained. So he widens it right here to this vexed question of the death penalty, which we can discuss that, but he takes this case of Durbin and he sets the moral ambiguity of being a Catholic senator who does many charitable things for poor people and immigrants, etc., which we will see, but who is favoring abortion rights, which has always been regarded as the key. Innocent life must be defended always, everywhere, in all cases. And this has been part of Catholic teaching for 2,000 years. It's in the letter to Diognetus, which was written perhaps before some of the Gospels in about 90 AD, perhaps, or 100 AD. And it says the Christians are known for not aborting their children. This is part of their belief, that innocent life cannot be taken, and it is against the fifth commandment, thou shalt not kill. So it's part of our teaching from the beginning. Now, someone who says I'm against abortion, but I'm in agreement with the inhuman treatment of immigrants in the United States, I don't know if that's pro-life. So he adds in the second question. First, he raised the question of the death penalty. And I think this is because it was a sort of offhand remark, because he's bringing in things that would require considerable reflection to speak fully.
I think you're right that it's an offhand remark, but it's also the seamless garment defense.
Yeah.
It's exactly that.
Okay, and then this becomes the sort of central thing that he said yesterday. So they, that is abortion, immigration, inhuman treatment of immigrants, the death penalty, are complex issues. And I don't know if anyone has all the truth on them. So he's giving us right there a kind of humble position that in human affairs, there are tragic things that happen, and all sorts of emotions and justice and injustice. And I do think that there is truth in that. And I think Jesus and God realized that. But whether that then, to what extent, affects the teaching on these issues by the church is what he's going to deal with right here. He goes, but I would ask first and foremost that they would have respect for one another. This is his main point. He doesn't really want to condemn Durbin or Cupich, and maybe I shouldn't interpret. I'll just say what he said. And that we search together, this is his theme, both as human beings, and in that case, as American citizens, and citizens of the state of Illinois. So he's giving us sort of categories of standing, Americans, not Russians or Chinese, citizens of the state of Illinois under the state laws. He's contextualizing the whole thing. As well as Catholics, he says, you see, to say that we need to be close to all of these ethical issues. So again, it's not a clarion call that's very clear, but it is an appeal to weigh these things with kindness, with justice, with balance, with thought. And then he adds, and to find the way forward as a church. And then he finally gives this sentence: the church teaching on each one of those issues is very clear.
This is like a game of tennis.
Right. Exactly. So, this is just the context here. The Chicago-born Pope Leo, and of course, because Cupich is the man in question, Cupich was his Cardinal Archbishop of the diocese where he grew up and where he lived many years. So there's a direct relationship between him personally and this decision. The Chicago
and Cupich was one of the cardinal voters most influential in his election.
We may even say the most, perhaps.
Yes.
We think that, we can't be sure, but the Chicago-born Pope Leo spoke to reporters as he was leaving the papal villa of Castel Gandolfo near Rome, where in recent weeks he has made it a practice to spend Tuesdays before returning to the Vatican. And then this is again a question of church unity, because look at this. You see this? 7 current bishops in the U.S. have joined Springfield, Illinois Bishop Thomas Paprocki, so it makes 8. And I've met Paprocki and talked to him. He's a marathon runner, by the way. And, a man of a great commitment to his episcopal role. Is calling on Cupich to reconsider honoring Durbin, including Archbishop Salvatore Cordileone, whom I also know, a wonderful man, of San Francisco, Bishop James Conley of Lincoln, Nebraska, Bishop James Wall of Gallup, New Mexico, Bishop David Ricken of Green Bay, Wisconsin, Bishop Carl Kemme of Wichita, Kansas, Bishop James Johnston of St. Joseph, Kansas City, Missouri, and Bishop Michael Olson of Fort Worth, Texas. So all these Catholic bishops have criticized the decision. So we don't have unity in the hierarchy. And I, as someone who follows these things, am put in the uncomfortable position of describing this and asking you, Father Murr, of what are we to do in such a situation?
It's a shame that I can't answer in a clearer form, because this has been going on for 60 years. It's been going on for 50 years anyway. There is an answer. There's an answer to all of these questions, and it's not vague. It's very cut and dry. I would any bishop, any priest, any layman would find him or herself on the side of abortionists should really stop and consider what direction they're walking. I mean, this is outrageous. This is outrageous. You notice that he didn't connect the sin of abortion with anything else. He didn't try to mix it with anything else that is more controversial. For example, homosexuality, the Jimmy Martin area. He didn't go into that. He brought in the death penalty, right? There's so many things wrong here, and I'm going to say it exactly like that. First of all, when I was reading this, I said, well, he must be talking about me, because I abhor abortion. I've heard that sin many times in confessional and absolved that sin. It's a very serious sin. I try to make people aware of the seriousness of the sin. But I am also in favor of the death penalty. In severe instances, I have no problem with that. As a matter of fact, I have a problem with saying that it could not possibly exist under Christian morality, since our Lord himself answered Pontius Pilate. Pontius Pilate said to him, "Are you unaware, or don't you realize that I have the power to crucify you or to set you free?" He says to Christ. And our Lord answers, "You do have that power, but you would not have that authority were it not given to you by my Father in heaven." Well, all right, the state has such authority. Now, it's to use it very wisely and prudently and extraordinarily. But I find no difficulty. I've never found any difficult with being anti-abortion. You're talking about the slaughter of innocent children who have done nothing, who have committed no wrong. They're incapable of committing a wrong, and you're murdering them. Take a hardened criminal who's killed 20 people. He confesses to it, what have you, and in some cases, Robert begs to have his life ended. It's even, I mean, I'm talking extremes here. There are less dramatic cases, but they do exist. That's I find no difficulty with that. And now to throw this thing back on me, for example, this is what I'm getting from him. If we don't agree that we can make an exception, you should sort of overlook the fact that this senator has given millions and millions and millions of dollars for the slaughter of the holy innocents. Overlook that. Just kind of overlook that. I can't. Now, I'm not saying that he should be put in prison, that he should be killed. No, none of that. But I'm saying honor him. Honor him. He should be given a Catholic award for other things. I don't think so. It's too easily confused with that issue. Get on with it. Go to something less controversial. but evidently they don't like that.
Okay.
They don't like that.
Good points. We have a couple of interesting comments. This is our friend Palermo Trapani, and I think we heard that he lives down in Sicily. I am having difficulty reading without my glasses. I apologize.
Cardinal Cupich caused this. Under Pope Francis, I think this award goes through because those 9 bishops would have never publicly criticized Cupich.
Okay. So it puts Pope Leo in a hard position, and how he treats this matter. This other comment, I wonder if there were no wolves in Rome, which of course is referring to the words that Pope Benedict XVI spoke at the end of his inauguration homily on April 24th, 2005. I was there that day listening to him, and I had a shiver. When he said those words, he said, "Please pray for me, all of you, including me, that I do not flee for fear of the wolves." I said, who is he going to flee? Which wolves? Outside the church, inside the church? He didn't make it clear. But later he resigned. So my life has been marked by this passage, this phrase that I heard from this man who I met 50 times, talked to many times. I've got tapes of our conversations that go for an hour, which I've never published. But I wonder if there were no wolves in Rome, referring to Pope Benedict XVI, that there are wolves that attack the church and the Pope. That Pope Leo, so this person is sympathetic to Pope Leo. He realizes Pope Leo too faces wolves, would declare abortion as the preeminent priority. In other words, he's suggesting Leo is influenced by the wolves to be cautious, because he knows the wolves want him not to declare this, because they want him to declare.
Of course they do. But I've got just a piece of friendly advice to the Holy Father, and this is a poor unworthy priest giving this advice to a pope. All right, take it from that standpoint. If he does not declare himself openly, rather than playing, when we say in Spanish, playing in two waters, playing both sides of the fence, he's going to end up. You can't do that.
So
you can't do that as Pope. You cannot do that as Pope. It's not going to end. It's not going to end wonderfully for him.
So you're saying he's at a crossroads?
He's not only at a crossroads. He's going to be at a crossroads for the rest of his pontificate if he doesn't speak clearly. And to speak clearly is to address the issues and say what they are. The ambiguity, no one can stand it any longer. We've had ambiguity for 50 years. We need clarity. That's what everybody was waiting for in this Pope, clarity. And if he's going to continue this being on both sides of the fence, it's not helping anyone. It's frustrating everyone.
Okay, so I would like to say clarity may be charity. There's one letter difference. And my graduate school professor, who was a wonderful man named Yaroslav Pelikan, said to me once, said, "Bob, in the end there remain these three: faith, hope, and clarity. And the greatest of these is clarity." And he was speaking
faith, hope, and clarity.
Yeah. And he was making not a joke, but a play on the word charity, because clarity can be charity. And if you're all confused and you're not sure what I should do and how brave I should be, how courageous I should be, what stand I should take, and the church doesn't give you a clear signal, you may compromise and you may be weak and you may commit sins, and in the end it'll harm your soul. The church, in caring for souls, needs to be clear. But am I correct?
Yes. Excuse me. I'm laughing to myself, remembering something that I hadn't thought about for years, Robert, with your last saying. we had a great man, Father Ryan, who taught philosophy in Rome.
Yes.
And he one time, you know him?
Well,
He was just a great individual. The kind of priest they're not making anymore today. But
Yeah.
he said one time, he said, I don't know how it came up, but he said in Dublin there was a man walking down the street by the name of Tom Flaherty, and at 9 o'clock in the morning he was drunk. At 9 o'clock in the morning, and people were asking themselves, how is it possible that at 9 o'clock in the morning he's drunk? And somebody said, Flaherty begins at home. Anyway, that was with your charity thing, your clarity thing. But
Flaherty begins at home.
That's right.
Oh, man.
We had that as a saying. Remember that saying, charity begins at home? Right.
Sure. Yes,
Okay.
it does. Now, how could we propose to someone whom we love and venerate, really, Pope Leo, and recognize that there are wolves around him of all sorts, and pressures and governments, and we are certain that this man who came from Chicago and was a missionary to Peru and celebrated Mass now for 40 years. No, 45 years since he became a priest in his 20s. He's trying to guard and protect the Church of Jesus Christ in a secularized world. And in that world, everyone is always saying there's a special case, there's a hard case, that these things shouldn't be focused on, or that this man has been charitable with regard to the poor and the refugees. Let's not regard his stand on abortion. What could we propose in this context? Why draw a line here on the question of abortion and making it widely?
Robert, I would draw a line on any question, not just abortion. I find I agree totally with Mother Teresa of Calcutta. She said any nation that is killing its infants has something fundamentally wrong with it, and it's not going to get any better until that's resolved. That's what I believe is happening in the United States of America. I think it's happening all over the world. However, that said, we have this idea of the seamless garment. I like that analogy, but I interpret it differently. I would take it. It entails everything of Christian morality, everything of Christian dogma, everything of Christian doctrine, everything on Christian tradition, everything of the magisterium. It's everything. It's not one or the other. You and I were taught, and we were taught correctly. We were taught correctly, by the way, that to deny anything of the faith, one article of the faith, is to cease to be Catholic. Because when you deny one article of the faith, what you're denying the faith. You're denying that it was revealed, that it's divinely revealed. And to do that is not to be Catholic. I would say you take the whole thing. You don't just say, all right, well, here's a checkoff box. And I can check off 4 things he's in agreement with and 2 that he's not. 4 from 2 from 4 leaves 2. So he's on the plus side. Oh, he's okay. No, no, it doesn't work that way. It's all or nothing. It's all or nothing. That's really the way I would look at it. Let me make just a comment that I was going to make the last week, and maybe I did, but I'd like to make it now. I really miss the days of Paul VI when he would speak in the papal we. You remember that? Yeah. Every time the Pope spoke, he said, "We believe, we walk with Christ. We are hoping to get we. It's us, we." He speaks for the church. I'm uncomfortable with the Pope saying I. This began with John Paul the II. I, me, I go, I see, I talk, I. With his personalism, I understand where he's coming from, but we're missing that we. And what we're looking for, and I'm not just talking about, I like the Elizabethan sound of it. I'm not saying that. I'm saying what it means. It really means we, us, all of us together. We believe this. We hold these things. And the Pope is speaking for us. He's not speaking for himself. his opinion is interesting, but I want his opinion as Pope. I want his teaching as Pope. That's to me much more interesting, much more important. And I mean, he can give comments like this. I believe this, or I saw that when I was a kid. Wonderful, but really to speak with some authority as we believe these things. We hold this. We hold these truths. That kind of thing.
Yeah.
It's very important that it's not present. That would underline the importance of the pontifical mission and also of our participation in it.
Okay, I think that's a very important point. The we and the I, and the we represents all the prior popes, represents all the faithful. He's the figurehead, but the visible, the living, breathing, and suffering figurehead. I wouldn't really want to have his job. I think I would have already collapsed. And I've seen him. I shook his hand this summer. But I saw...
Oh, Robert. No, you wouldn't, Robert. Not with me at your side.
That's true. You could have been special advisor.
What a team. What a team we'd make.
But no. But he says here, Christina says, it would be nice to know as a Catholic his true belief. What a phrase. Can you reflect on that?
It would be nice to know as a Catholic his true belief. Well, this is what...
What does that mean?
What is to reflect on? It's again, we're back into those muddied waters of ambiguity.
Yeah.
It's we don't know. When you ask me a question, any question, yes, is it this way or is it that way? And I say, well, you've got to look at it both ways, and you're not going to get an answer from me, or you're talking to a politician. When I'm asked a question, when you're asked a question, we like to be truthful. We want to be truthful. Our problem is, and this is a human problem, everyone has it to some degree, we enjoy the esteem of our fellows.
That's
we
true.
Enjoy that. And we don't want to be unpopular. So we don't answer. And there are people, and you know them, Robert, and I know them, and I know a lot of people in the church who have made careers, lifelong careers, not answering questions.
Mm-hmm.
When their responsibility is to answer questions and to guide. Anyway, it's very frustrating. It's frustrating. This it really is.
Okay, I have 3 points. First, this is an amazing phrase by Christina. It would be nice to know, as a Catholic, his true belief. The Catholic wants to know what the Pope truly believes. How could anything be more poignant?
Yeah.
And so the Pope, in a way, must recognize it's not really him as Robert Prevost any longer. It's him, Leo.
That's right. That's exactly the point, Robert. That's exactly the point. Yes.
And he must become Leo, and he is. But he's got the pattern of this off-the-cuff press conferences, etc., and the concept that he's built up over his lifetime of being a man who listens and who brings men of his religious order together to discern whether they're going to go here or there. So he's used to that, but now he must be Peter and the rock, and people want to know his true belief. And they're the sheep, and he's the shepherd. And they're saying, are we going here or are we going there? Now, why on this question, why do Catholics become so excited? Almost the more secular humanist people can't understand, why are we so excited about the abortion question?
Because, just stop and think, it is not just the taking of life. That's too nicely put. It sounds too cleaned up. It is the murder of innocent life. Completely innocent life. This life has done nothing wrong. This life's sin, if you will, is to exist according to some in society, which is horrific, horrific, that our mindset would be there, that our opinions would be so base and so wrong. We have a lot to answer for, and we're answering for it already, whether we realize it or not. The chaos that is in our countries all over the Western world is because of this issue. It really is. It goes right down to the issue of life.
Okay. So we have people who say this isn't human life. It's tissue and it becomes life at birth.
Then listen to the science. We have to start listening to the science. And science tells us it is human life.
Okay, and where does that begin?
It begins at conception.
But why do people...
At conception, well, because they don't want to. They don't want to admit it.
Okay.
Why would it be a human life at 6 months and not at 5 months and 3 weeks? But this is absurd. What they're trying to do is justification. They're trying to justify their own stances. Okay. And so therefore, if I say it's not a human life, well, then it's no sin. It's no moral problem. So if I say it's a human life, well, then I'm taking it. Then there is sin.
And and of course, I agree with you, of course. I'm just provoking
I understand.
But, and I've been through this argument. I remember at Harvard College, I was the only one at a Milk and Cookies who said the Supreme Court decision legalizing abortion raises profound moral questions because there are two entities. There's the mother and there's the growing child. And we are considering only the so-called choice of the mother, but not the sacred right of the child. Exactly. And the tutor looked at me and said, "You are the only one in this college that has those ideas, but there's one Catholic professor that you should go talk to, William Alfred." He went to daily mass. And I talked to him and then later wrote my thesis, senior thesis, under him. But that is how secularized, it was an exaggeration. There were people, Orthodox Jews. And
there were also people having milk and cookies with you who believed that, who refused to speak.
Right. So I was actually regarded as a kind of sore thumb, impolite, in the polite company of the modern secular society. But why is it important? Two reasons. One, after birth, where do you draw the line? If you can take it up to birth or up to
Robert,
you can kill 1 year old, 2 year old, 3 year old.
Yes. And Peter Singer, in the philosophy department of Princeton University, Professor Peter Singer.
I know. Yes.
3 years of age.
There you go.
Up to 3 years of age, because to be a human being means to have a personality, and that personality is not developed enough until 3 years of age. So there you are.
Our listeners should be aware that there is a man who has said no difference between abortion and taking the life of a baby up to age 3. This is how far people are going. This is the situation we face. And so the point is, what is human life? And is it sacred? Can we take a life? Now, this doesn't mean that it's easy to be a parent. In fact, it's a privilege and a burden at the same time. But of course, I would say the most marvelous thing, some people say that cooperating with God with another person, a spouse, have a child who is a human being with an eternal soul is the single highest thing that can occur to a person. It's a cooperation with bringing into existence of a person, of a soul. And it's sacred, but we have a society that holds nothing sacred. And so
as a matter of fact, Robert, to underscore what you're saying, we have a special verb for that. It's called procreate.
Procreate. Create.
It's not called I created my son. My wife and I created our son. No. We procreated. We created together with God. That's what it is. Right?
Okay. Now, if a society loses, and So in view of now test tube babies and in the future maybe manufactured babies, designer babies, the issue of the sacredness of human life and of procreation and the battle over the family, as Cardinal Cupich said Sister Lucy told him would be the battle of our time, defending the sacredness of life becomes for someone like Pope Leo, as it was for Pope John Paul II, the central, I would say the central. We must defend the sacredness of human life, and then that ripples out to defend the weak, the poor, and the immigrant. But if you draw the line prior to defending the innocent child, the unborn, then you're incoherent.
When there's a discussion as to who is the most vulnerable, who is the most innocent, who is the most victimized, it is the unborn child.
Well, okay, I would say
well, because he or she is helpless.
yes.
They're totally dependent on you and on your moral decisions for their own life. This is incredible.
I mean, the beauty is so extreme that it brings tears. The beauty of the embryo, already there moving its fingers and living in a beautiful, quiet world where they can still already hear the music or even the fights that are occurring around them. That's why any society always privileges the pregnant mother as almost a shrine, a chapel, a sanctuary where human life is coming into being. Any society that regards that as nothing important, as a piece of tissue, is a society that is miserable. It's lost its bearings. And our task in the church is to defend that beautiful vision of our dignity, ours as well, even if it's difficult to raise children and it's difficult to take on the burden. It is what it's all about. As a friend of mine said, as a friend of mine in Rome, another journalist had a baby. I went to the hospital. He held up the baby and said, "Here, you can hold it." And he says, "Bob, that's what it's all about."
It is.
So if we are just killing and desacralizing human life, then as we face the future with AI and the designer babies and everything, we're going to have huge, huge problems. We must draw the line, and our leader has got to hold high the standard.
And I think you just made a great point. And that is, we're late in the game. This is late in the game. We've always, the Catholic teaching has always been, from the early church, from Didache, the first century, second century, the teaching against abortion is clear. It's clear. But today, we have to really draw the line and clearly for everyone to see. We have to be, our Catholic morality has to be Catholic morality. It has to be Christian. It has to be obvious.
Okay.
There are exceptions to everything. We understand that. Father Benedict Rochelle, when you were talking, I remember he told me, I had dinner with him once, a couple times actually, but one time, he said that they were in prison. He was in jail. He got arrested for some pro-life work, no doubt. And on the other side of the exercise courtyard, were this group, he said, a group of vile men. Vile. They were disgusting. And they would keep looking back over toward the priests who had been arrested with a disdain that was almost palpable. And finally, Father Rochelle said, "Who are those men?" And those are the abortionist doctors. They're in for abortion, practicing abortion when it was absolutely illegal. He said, "They hate you." And Rochelle said, "And where are the women? Are there any women in prison because they had an abortion? No. We don't hold the women responsible.
Yeah.
We don't hold the women responsible because they've been toyed with, they've been played with. They're not as responsible as the men who do this to them." So there's a distinction. We make distinctions, and those distinctions have to be brought forth and clarified. They're very important, but we have to speak clearly first. and we're not speaking clearly. And when we do things like this, when we say that this abortion thing is just we connect it with the capital punishment, or we connect it with the way we treat immigrants. No. Just a minute. Stop. Talk about abortion. Tomorrow we'll talk about immigration. The day after we can talk about something else. Stop comparing that one is less and one is more. Whoa. Is this right? Is this wrong? What are the reasons for it? That's all. And that's what people are dying to hear, and that we haven't heard it for years.
Okay. I had 4 different thoughts. One is that I knew Cardinal Bernardin, who created this concept of the seamless garment. But there's something true. If we hold the sacredness of life, then we take very seriously being kind, generous, and loving to the weak, the destitute, the sick, to heal, to help, and to the traveler, the stranger, the immigrant. We can be engaged ever more strongly if our solid beginning is the sacredness of life. Yes. I'm not saying, okay. The second point,
absolutely.
John Paul II had 2 phases in his pontificate. One was Soviet Union time. That fell. He was regarded as the liberator, the preacher of human dignity and freedom in Eastern Europe, etc., freedom of religion. And then in the 90s, he pivoted and he started to say, there is a culture of life and a culture of death, and the Western culture has embraced the culture of death, and everyone started to criticize him. But he was defending the unborn. Mm-hmm. This is John Paul II's second half of his pontificate. We are just following him and his teaching. And the third thing is, it's an imitation of Christ. Christ became incarnate. It's part of our creed. He was conceived of the Holy Spirit in the Virgin Mary. And so every woman to us, in some way, who conceives a child, is a reflection of the dignity of the Mother of God, the Mother of Christ, the mother of the child who is in the image and likeness of God. We want her protected. We want her to have good care. We want her to be well fed. We want, the fact that she had to go to Bethlehem and be in a manger. We want her to have a delivery of the child. And we want to bring gifts to the child as a kind of imitation. And this becomes the central joy of society, to welcome a new member who is an image of the incarnate God, the Son of God, Jesus Christ. And a society that starts to make that second, third, fourth, 10th, or doesn't regard it at all is an impoverished society. And Mother Teresa made this remarks, and I'm kind of hurriedly moving towards the end of our podcast, but Mother Teresa came to New York City. She spoke about the sadness and misery of abortion. She said, you have physical wealth and prosperity in your country, but I've never seen such poverty.
Right.
And this is what we are saying. Let's have the wealth of joy, of having babies, of having families, of having children received, respected, loved. And let's not just orient ourselves in a secular direction. Let's have an eternal, soul-centered horizon. This is our teaching and our belief.
Robert, I agree completely. And I would say the first step in that is to speak clearly.
Amen.
Is to have our authorities, church authorities, speaking clearly.
Father Murr, we've gone to an hour. I don't know if people feel we go on too long. And some people, I did get a little letter in the mail, and I'll just end the program by reading a nice note. Dear Robert and Father Murr, September 25th, this was written 5 days ago. What a blessing to watch your broadcast each week. Thank you for your information and most of all the insight you bring to us. My love and prayers, Janet, and she loves the Moynihan letters, the letters I write. And she sent a little check of $100.
Beautiful. And I get letters from a lot of people, Robert, also praising you. I'll have you know. So we've got a lot of people watching this program. And you know what? If we've got 3 people watching and we can make a difference in some lives, that's what it's all about. Doesn't matter how many.
Thank you, Father, and thank you. See you next week, and see you at the end of the month in Spain. I hope.
Absolutely, Robert.
Yeah.
I'm making dinner here. I'm the one making dinner, so you've got to make it. It's gonna be good.
Thank you, Father, for
Ciao.
the feast. Bye.
Come with us on a unique pilgrimage and retreat to renew your spirit. Experience the beauty and richness of southern Spain. Our retreat master, Father Charles T. Murr, a renowned Catholic priest, best-selling author, philosopher, theologian, trained psychologist, and pastor of souls. Father Murr will guide us through 3 mornings of spiritual reflections at a convent located in the historic heart of Carmona, Spain, promising a transformative journey. Experience an intimate evening with Father Murr at his home. Wine, dinner, music, and conversation, a highlight of this unique experience. Explore picturesque towns in Andalusia, each with its own history and charm. From the ancient streets of Carmona to the majestic beauty of Cordoba, the breathtaking views of Ronda, the remarkable village of Centenil, and the historic wonders of Seville. Our pilgrimage will be filled with awe-inspiring moments. Join us on this profound spiritual journey and rediscover the joy of faith, fellowship, and renewal. Book your place now and embark on a pilgrimage and retreat unlike any other.